photographers, well, photographers in the wider creative entertainment industry, the inner circle of which is kind of guarded by bloodlines and high levels of nepotism. And what that means is the people with the good portfolios and the talent, you, are quite often left out in the wilderness without a place, without a space, without being known. And that frustrates the absolute fuck out of me. So that kind of exclusive nature of the industry, which we will have all come across in some shape or form in our careers, ensures that people like me and you, working classes mainly, are completely excluded from the higher echelons of the industry, which is unfair and shit. Today I'm going to talk through some of my experience of this, and hopefully it'll ring true for you guys as well. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to the latest episode of the Lance Burkitt Encounter. My God, what a week this has been. And I don't mean like mad busy week, I mean weather. I mean with us Brits, us English particularly, and the Scots, they burn, and the Irish, they burn like hell as well. And I know being half Scots, quarter Scots, quarter Irish, quarter English, and a bit of something else. Native Indian, my dad reckons. But anyway, I don't burn as much as most people. I tend to go brown pretty quick. But what I'm trying to say is, here in England, the British summer tends to be around 15, 18 degrees, not 30 plus. So this week has been like hellfire for us, and it's no fun. The dogs are walking around the house in misery. I feel for them. We try and keep the doors open. Brought a big fan home for them. Clover didn't like it, so we couldn't even use the fan in the house because she was scared of it, which has made things worse for the dogs and for us. Well, so this week, creative-wise, I've done naff all. I've struggled to think this week because I've been so bloody warm. And I'm in the studio now, and normally if I'm working in the studio, I'd have a big fan, industrial fan going and blowing at me. Can't have that, obviously, because I'm recording sound. It would pick up on the sound. Over to my right here is a window. I open that window, get a nice breeze coming in, but then you can hear all the traffic from the M1 and all the roads that are around here. So currently I'm stuck in an oven, which is about as much fun as, I don't know, feel like I'm a 30-year-old transit van on an MOT ramp. Just horrendous, sweating like hell. So I'm not sure how long this podcast will be today. Might be half an hour, might be an hour, depending how we get on. But I've been talking for a minute and I'm already wet through. So if I start to dissolve and go all soggy as the episode goes along, forgive me. It's not my fault, Governor. So today I thought I'd talk about my experience of elitism in photography. And I've touched on this in a few other episodes previously, but not directly at it like this. And by elitism, I mean the whole industry up to what you might call good money level. The bit where you start to earn money, which is serious, where you start to get gigs, which get you published all the time. Once you hit that level, the whole industry is gate-kept by, I guess, I might call it snobbery. Some people might just call it gatekeeping. Your face doesn't fit, your accent doesn't fit. Some people from that side of the woods would call it sour grapes, so you were never good enough. Well, I know I'm good enough because I've been there and done some of that. But what I wasn't prepared to do was sacrifice everything I wanted to do that. But that's a slightly different story. But my experience of trying to break into the higher echelons has been pretty much one that kind of solidifies my wider understanding of the world, that the working classes are here and everybody else is over here. And the world as a whole is into equality, diversity and inclusion. Rightly so. We should all be enveloped in that. We should all be welcome. We should all be thriving from whatever background we come from. Whatever we have, right with us, wrong with us, or indifferent with us. As long as we're not hurting anybody, we should all be embraced. But if you're a working class and you're trying to break into music, I mean, you look at some musicians, they come from, what they used to call it, rags to riches. There's some of that. There's the odd person, the odd film star, the odd photographer that comes kind of that route. But generally speaking, you're talking upper middle class, high class people that get into those higher echelons. And I know you'll all throw at me some names of people who've come from the wrong side of the tracks and done good. Yes, there are always exceptions. I'm talking about in the main. I'm talking about the thousands of working class photographers who can't get a gig because of where they're from, how they sound, how they dress, how they look, what their thoughts are, and they don't conform probably. And I've experienced a lot of that in the 20 years that I've been working as a photographer. I suffered it in the early days, I suffered it in the mid days, and I still suffer it today. I still get turned down for jobs today because I'm not from London, or I'm not in New York, or whatever it might be. And it's more than a massive frustration for me. It's bloody obvious that it's done on purpose. I mean, we'll get into the nepotism and bloodlines a bit later on, but just the mere fact that if you sound a bit different, or look a bit different, or just are a bit different, then the equality, diversity, inclusion bullshit falls down, because nobody really wants to get into that. They don't really want you to be in a room of, I don't know, 10 upper class people who speak properly, and somebody like me walks in, "Hey, pal, how you doing? You alright, mate? You had a good week? Weather's horrific, innit? Can't fucking breathe." They don't want to hear that because they think I'm below them, I'm thick, and I'm a retard, and all that other stuff that I know they think of me and you. And I hear that not just in the photography circles, not even just in the higher end. I hear colleagues say it to me from their day job, try and sound a little different, a bit, fuck off. So, equality, diversity, and inclusion is a great concept in its innocence, but in practice, it's very rarely correct or does the right things. It ticks a box and still excludes everybody that falls outside of what you might call societal norms at whatever level you're at. And in photography, and today I'm talking about high-end photography, your newsstand, I said that word last time, didn't I? Newsstand, news agent, because I've been to New York now, you see, I think I've got the lingo. Stuff you see in a news agents, the magazines that you always see. To get into those kind of places, you've got to speak right, act right, do right, be in the right place. And it's frustrated the fuck out of me for 20 years. It still frustrates me. I still hear people telling me these stories now outside of what I know. And it's probably always been there. It probably stems back from when there were peasants and kings, doesn't it? The us and them thing. And I used to let it bother me a lot. I used to really, really let it bother me, because as a working class lad from a working class town in a mining community, lastly, where I went to live in Ireland, I wanted to break out of that. I didn't want to just be a kid from a working class background who just stayed there and didn't achieve any of their dreams. And not because there's anything wrong with being working class and living that background. In fact, I live on the same street now that I grew up on, so that tells you that it's more of a mental gymnastics trip than it is a physical. But aspiring to get out of that, I mean, it's an horrible thing initially, isn't it? We all come from different sides of the lines, as they say, and you got to aspire to be better than where you came from. It's just fucking horrible just thinking about that. But I didn't want to be, so I felt like I had a bit of talent. I felt like I had a bit of something else to give to the world other than just drive a van or dig in the mines. I was always that way, and I have done manual labour, so I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. I'm just saying I had a feeling I could get out there. Only then, as I grew up and got a bit older and got a bit of success, to realise that actually the last thing I wanted to fucking do ever in the world was be with them bastards over there. Because A, they were not my kind of people, and by my kind of people I mean people who do accept you for who you are, whether you're black, white, Indian, straight, gay, religious, not, so long as you're not hurting anybody. My gang accepts anybody, and I quickly found out when I went up the ladder to progress my career, to get out away from the working class situation I would have been in, that I didn't really want to be with those people anyway. And so then you have that conflict of desperately trying to get to a place where you can earn enough money to, I mean, at that time it would have been to record songs, put albums out, and gig. Never interested in the fame and real fortune, just wanted to be able to sustain that and do it and not have to do it with a day job. And then when I became a photographer as well, I had the same ethos. I wanted to earn a living as a photographer and not have to do another job. And I did that for quite a while. But it's fucking difficult. And it's difficult because people from the other side of the tracks, people from where the grass is greener, look at you like you're a fucking alien. They look at you like you're some kind of disease. And I wonder, there must be many other people out there that outside of my circle of photographic friends and colleagues who have had similar experiences. And I wanted to share some of that with you today, just to let you know, those of you that are coming through particular that might be from a working class or even a middle class background might come up against barriers. They're not even, they're beyond class barriers, because in my experience, where there's a class barrier, more often than not, the class barrier can be broken down. You can push through that. You can convince people to buy into you and believe you, trust you. It's more than that. It's a snobbery which is above class. And it's almost like a, how can I put it? It's like a, it is a literal them and us. It's a, you're not fucking good enough. You don't sound right. You don't look right. So there's absolutely no way your photography, your music, your filmmaking, your poetry, or art, whatever it is, can live up here, because we couldn't put you out there to talk to people. We couldn't have people come and talk to you. And yes, there are small, occasional exceptions to that rule, but in the main, there isn't. And it saddens me when I see students graduate and go and try and go up that path, and our own kids struggle in the creative industries to get past the working class barrier for the same reasons that I struggled and my colleagues struggled and other people I know that weren't even from our location, weren't even from our county, have struggled. And I could sit here and probably tell you 100 stories about times when I've, as a musician, spoke to somebody about booking a gig or a tour and faced that class, more than class barrier, that, you know, elitism barrier. And I could tell you another 100 stories from when I've been a photographer and come up against that, and I'll expand on that a little bit now. In the last decade, I probably think of 15 or 20 instances where I put myself forward for a job in London, just in London, and had a response something along the lines of, "Oh, great portfolio, I like your work, where you're based." "Oh, I'm based in Yorkshire, near Sheffield, but got transport, you know, I can come down. Just, you know, let me know if you want to meet on a call, or I'll pop and see you before, so we can see whether we're going to fit." Silence. Tumbleweed. Leave it a few days, pop a message. "Oh, did you get my reply? Ready to go when you are." Silence. They might as well just have sent back an email that said, "Fuck off, you Yorkshire twat." Because that's what they're thinking. They're thinking, God, a big head from Yorkshire, do we want to have to put up with that? Anybody that knows me knows I'm not like that. I'm the most friendly, welcoming, easygoing guy in any situation. But they get a sense of who you are through your location. They haven't met you. They've not even spoken to me at that point. And just ghost you. They just ghost you. And I would sooner they came back and said, "Oh, nah, sorry mate, we don't work with Northerners. We don't work with the little classes. We don't work with upper class people." At least you know, don't you? At least then you're not thinking, you know. Or if they came back and said, "Thanks for replying, Lance. We're going with somebody else's work at somebody else because we prefer their style over yours." Or even if they said, "Oh, Lance, we're not going with you this time because your work's fucking crap. Try harder." Fine. But to ghost people, and I'm not kidding, in the last decade that's happened upwards of 15 times, probably 20 times. And if I went back and looked through my emails and messages, I could tell you definitively how many. And I'm not going to name and shame people because it's not my bag to name and shame people. Only paedophiles, and that's another discussion. But for me, the evidence is there, and it's the same. It's the same overseas, in Europe, and in the States. I've spoken to people from even before I got over my fear of flying, and I was looking for work, and we're back probably 8, 10, 12 years ago, and I was looking for work in New York, which I would love to have done. And they fly photographers from England, you know, London photographers. Yes, I know there's the odd one. Quite a famous photographer from up the road from me, but they're as rare as rocking or shit. You've got more chance of getting the truth out of any politician than finding many working class creatives that get work overseas, or big gigs, as you might say. And I got the same. Sorry, I'm just sweating like hell. I got the same response then from New York and LA. Oh, great! Whereabouts in England are you based? Oh, in Yorkshire, little town. Could rather than Sheffield, but you know, kind of lying at that point. So I didn't have a passport and I didn't fly, but I would have done, I think, for those gigs, for the big gigs. But that's not the point, is it? The point is, as soon as you say I'm a working class northerner, or they get wind of it, they're off. They're off like the fucking like Linford Christie, and they're not interested, and they just ghost you. And if I've had 100 conversations like that, I've probably had 4 or 5 who have gone, actually, Lance, we're going to go a different direction. Nobody said we're not picking you because you work shit. Nobody said we're not picking you because you're a northerner. But apart from the odd few that say we're going in a different direction, I know it's because they don't want to get involved with the likes of us. And by the likes of us, I mean you, because the vast majority, I think, of people who watch this podcast are people like me who kind of grew up in areas and in situations like I did, working class, friendly, happy-go-lucky, do anything for anybody people who get piss shit farted on because they sound like Brian from, I don't know, what's it called? Kes. What do you call Brian? That guy from Kes. And I know this is not just the higher echelons of the world, because I spoke to a lovely guy last week with a fantastic Barnsley accent. And if you don't know what a Barnsley accent sounds like, you'll get on YouTube and find it. Type in what's Barnsley accent sound like. It's fucking brilliant. You listen to people. So distinctive and so unique. But he was even like a bit embarrassed to not admit it, but he knew that people, even people like me who were from around here, would think he might sound a bit. And I just think, no, you got to embrace that. So it used to sadden me that that's how it was. It used to sadden me quite a bit that I didn't think I'd ever get to the higher echelons, not because I wasn't any good, but because of who I am and where I'm from. But as I got older, wiser, and more experienced, I started to not give two fucks about it. I got to the point now where I couldn't give a flying fuck what you think about me. I know who I am. I know how hard I work. I know what I can bring to the table. If I do that in a way that offends you, if me saying fucking hell every now and again, or me going, Jesus, or me saying, oh Christ, or me going, went that bit, if that makes you not want to work with me, then fuck you. I'm not interested. I would sooner have to beg in the street than come and beg at your door. I'm never going to do that. But it frustrates me because I come across a lot of great up-and-coming talent, photographers, musicians, painters, artists, who have those same struggles because they're from a working class background. And I just think, why? I mean, we'll get into a little bit of why in a sec, but I think the sad world we live in, we know that, and there's not a lot we can do about it other than just keep proving wrong. And hopefully we'll keep getting the odd amazing person slip through the net. You know, I'm talking about people like David Hockney, brings to mind as an artist from my neck of the woods, just up the M1. Brian Blessed, an actor from my town. You get people like Arctic Monkeys, who are from here as well. Pulp, Jarvis Cocker, Joe Cocker, even those kind of people who have made it and do sound like me. But they're handfuls of people among thousands. And occasionally it's talent that shines through, it's talent that gets them there. But more often than not, it's where they're from, how they sound, how they look, what people perceive them to be, gets them nowhere. And I would love to smash that down. more for you guys, for the up and coming, for the next generation than for me, because I've learned to live with the fact that, well, she's retired now, hasn't she? What's her name from Vogue? Anna Wintour. She's never going to ring me up, send me an email, knock on my door and go, "Hey up, Lance, pal, you want to come and shoot for us at Vogue in New York?" I kind of, got over that a long time ago. But at the same time, I don't want young creatives to have those barriers put there. So I guess what I'm hoping from today is that it kind of raises awareness for you guys a little bit, to give you a bit of hope that it's not just you, and the wider industry is like that, and lots of people you talk to will tell you that. And there will be the people that spin it. They'll give you the list of names of people who have made it from rags to rags to riches. But it's tiny. It's a tiny, tiny amount of people compared to how many people are out there who don't get a gig because they say fuck. And I think, the wider consequence of that is that the photography industry, I'll pick on photography because it's my thing, is very narrow-minded in its approach. And I think that is because it picks people who conform. It picks people from their sphere, from their level, with the same accent, with the same clothes, with the same car, from the same postcode. It picks those kind of people. So while they'll tell you that it's diverse, and they'll tell you that they're unique, and they'll tell you that the creativity is widespread, and we've got all these people, they will tell you that. They'll tell you they've got a black stylist, and they've got a Chinese this, and they've got an English that, and they'll tell you that. But my feeling is 9.9 out of 10 of them are from the same street, same postcode. So what that means is that the creativity they bring, the stuff they put out, is drab. And I've noticed it more and more and more, particularly in magazines like Vogue and the higher end stuff, where it just becomes the same. And probably since the 2000s, it almost feels like creativity is stuck in a time warp, like we've forgotten how to create, we've forgotten how to do that good stuff. And I'm sure some of that is down to snobbery and exclusion of the working classes. Because if you look where stuff's been made through a working class seam, it's fucking better. It just always is. So, people making assumptions of you, people treating you a certain way because of a certain thing. And that's before they find out whether you might have got a disability. My last podcast was on my bad back and how it kills me, but I soldiered through it. Probably shouldn't some days, but I want to be a photographer. I don't want to be disabled. I don't want to be sitting in a chair. I wish I was doing it. I would suddenly be in pain and do it. So I do that. But will people book me fast? I can come. I'm going to do it. It's great, but it might take me an hour longer than the other guy because I might have to rest for a bit from my back. Phone would go dead. And I know that the phone would go beep, which is upper class for fuck off. And I think, the people I've spoken to, and my kind of experience of getting what you might call high-end gigs is they don't care, they don't accommodate. It's turn up, do the gig, fuck off. So you don't even get any, they call it reasonable adjustments, don't they? But that lives in a tick box for most industries and most places. Reality on the ground is it doesn't work. It's not considered. You turn up and do it, or you piss off. One of the two. So it's, getting into those spaces is fucking difficult for anybody that doesn't live in that postcode. And even things like trying to get into network events to meet people, it isn't, your name's not down, you're not coming in. And this is where it feeds more into like nepotism and bloodlines for me, because if you look around the creative industries, all the creative industries actually, even some sports, come to think of it, if you come from a certain bloodline or you mix in a certain not even mix it, if you come from a certain bloodline, or if you know somebody because of a certain bloodline. If you move in those exact circles, you will get opportunities that the working class guy won't. And we'll talk about some of that now. Nepotism, it can be an innocent thing. It can be an aid to a family. And you might argue, well, what's the difference in somebody in Yorkshire who's on a breadline giving the brother or sister and the uncle a job because they need a job? What's the difference between that and David Beckham's son becoming a photographer because his dad's a famous footballer? And I would say there's a world of difference. Because when you consider that if I give, I don't know, let's say I give my son Logan a job in my studio, what's he going to do? He can sweep up, make the tea, help me set up, then I have to teach him everything, I have to teach him the trade, how the lights go, how the cameras go. I'll have to teach him, he'd have to learn it, would be a learn on the job. Whereas Beckham's son has become a bona fide photographer for no other reason than his dad's famous and his dad knows people. He knows people and get him in magazines and get him gigs, get him straight to the top table. And the difference is, my lad Logan would have to come and learn the trade, minimum wage, for a couple of years before he even got near doing the stuff that I do. Whereas Beckham's son just picked up a camera and went and did it and sat at the top table. And at first I thought, is it a joke? Is it like a wind-up? Is somebody else done it and they're just saying it just happened to be there? When you look into it, you just like, fucking hell. And there'll not just be me, there'll have been thousands of photographers who'll have gone, what the fuck? 16-year-old and he's at the top table. What's he done? What's he achieved? How has he got there? And that for me is nepotism abuse, because that is really going, well, we're here and you are there, Burkitt. And you can't come up here because my 16-year-old lad's going to go straight to that top table because I can say he can. So the two don't compare. And I don't just mean in terms of finance, I mean in terms of ability, working your way, earning it. What's Romeo done to earn it that Logan hasn't? And the difference is simple. It's just bloodlines and nepotism, isn't it? It's that, oh, but David Beckham he come from a working class background. Yeah, he did, because he was talented and he got through. He was lucky. If you look at the class of 92, look how many players out of that didn't make it. He's not one of the thousands, he's one of the few. Kudos to him, good luck to him. But what's his son done? His son didn't come from a working class background. His son was born not into poverty or into hard times. He was born into millions. Never had to want for anything. I don't know. Maybe David's made him work hard. Maybe he's taught him right from wrong. Maybe he's taught him how to work ethic. He may have done. I like to think he has. But still, does that give him the kudos to go straight to the top table? And I remember when it happened and people were kicking off. It was Burberry, wasn't it? Just looking now. I mean, Burberry. It's really strange, Burberry. I'll tell you a funny story. Sorry about the sweat. Burberry's all that, isn't it? It's like, I'm not keen on it myself. I don't think it looks that good. But Burberry's this old singing, dancing firm. But they used to have a factory in our local town, and I know lots of people that work there. And I know what went on in that factory. And I know the kind of fucking shifty things they did making Burberry stuff. I know what Burberry charged for it, and how much Burberry campaigns cost and make, and how much pay for it. And it just makes me fucking laugh. Because they're up here in the A-class postcode, and the people in the fucking Z-class postcode are making their shit for them. I mean, they know all the firms do it, don't they? Poor kid in China making his own Christmas toy and all that. But really, it's kind of... It pisses me off. Because 16-year-old Beckham can shoot for Burberry with no experience, no real experience, no portfolio, no backup, no. Just because his dad's David Beckham. And I think that tells you where the line in the sand is as to who runs the world and who doesn't, who gets the opportunities in the world and who doesn't. Pretty stark when you break that one down. So nepotism in that way. And I mean, yeah, just reading again, Chris Floyd told The Guardian that Burberry's decision to employ the inexperienced Beckham was a devaluation of photography, and it fucking is. It's an absolute devaluation of photography and what photographers do, learn and bring. It's just a fucking insult. And I know it's old news now, but it still goes on. It still happens. I'm lost for words because it makes me so angry. And it doesn't make me angry in a jealous way. It makes me angry in a... My working class lad wouldn't have an on-par opportunity. For example, if I said to him, right, Logan, there's a camera, stick it on semi-auto. On Saturday you're shooting that wedding. It's 500 quid. Don't fuck it up or you're dead meat. How is that the same opportunity that Beckham's got? Because I can guarantee you that Beckham will have had help. He'll have had people assisting him, helping him, dressing it, setting it up, doing all he's still doing, taking the picture. Now, I might have been doing him a disservice. He might know how to use a camera. He might have a bit of savvy. But compared to the thousands, hundreds of thousands of photographers who should have been paid to do that, who should have been given the chance, whether they're from lower, middle, or upper class families, I don't care. To just wheel somebody in who's got no experience because they're the son of a famous ex-footballer. There's not an expletive that will work. And I guess, you know, Burberry aren't daft. They'll have done it because of his Instagram followers and shit like that. You hear the stories now, don't you? Models only get picked up by agencies if they've got a big follower on Instagram. I mean, what the... It used to be that people liked the person, they bought into the person that was being photographed, and that's what would sell the stuff. Now it's what's fake social media doing. Is that another bloodline nepotism thing? Probably. If you look into it, probably. So, and I mean, you can probably go on, can't you? You can go on. Nepotism. I think it's, for me, a little bit of nepotism doesn't hurt. Can you get our Romeo a job serving coffee at Starbucks so he can learn a trade like everybody else? Yeah, do it. But can you airdrop him into Burberry because he's got a famous mum and dad and he's got a big Instagram following and it'll sell? Makes me wanna puke. So if you widen that out across music, performing arts, art, there's nepotism everywhere. I'm not daft. I mean, the latest thing, which actually I wasn't looking forward to at first, but the new Superman movie, kind of quite like the comic booky feel to it. And I mean, I'm a big fan of Christopher Reeve and a big fan of Henry Cavill. I'm not, you know, a Cavill bot that's going to destroy everything because it's not Henry Cavill and Zack Snyder, but kind of like it. I'm always excited for new Superman films anyway, so me and Kirsty are going to watch it next week and it'll be good. But he's given his brother a role, and apparently does in many of his films. That must make actors who could do that role probably better go. And maybe it does him a disservice because people will just say, oh, he's only in it because he's James Gunn's brother. Maybe I'm doing Mr. Gunn's brother a disservice. I'm just searching who he is because I'm fucking rubbish at names. Can't remember my own most of the time. Is it Sean Gunn? Yeah. And he might be a decent actor for all I know. But again, actors that are out of work are going to look at that and go, I could have played that part. I could have probably played it better, or at least as good, but I'm never going to get a chance because he's his brother. And some of you will be saying, yeah, but it's only fair, you know, if you can help your siblings or whatever, you will. Yeah, we will. We will. But I think sometimes there's a level, isn't there? I don't know where that line is. Where should you cross that line? When does it become more than nepotism? When does it become thieving somebody else's opportunity? Interested to know your thoughts on that, where the line is on that. Drop a message below or email me. Where's the line between nepotism and theft of opportunity? Because I think that line's pretty blurry, but perhaps shouldn't be. My brother's got me work. I found my brother work. But would I have done it at the expense of somebody else's opportunity? I'd like to think not, particularly that level of opportunity. And we can probably go on and on and on, can't we? We're thinking about celebs and how they give their kids work, find their kids opportunities. And I bet if we just look, if I could spell, I'd be a fucking genius, you know that? Nepo Baby phenomenon. Show me some examples. New York Magazine published an article with a list of, let's have a look. Probably won't even know half of them. Where's the fucking list then? Oh, we've got to subscribe to get the list. See if we can get a list. Oh, I hate Google, said that before now. If ever I learn to type, spell, get rid of my dyslexia, I'll be amazing. I mean, yeah, there's a list at the top. Zoe Kravitz, Lily Rose Depp, Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, the list probably goes on and on, doesn't it? Interestingly, I'd like to know what bloodline Dave Grohl belongs to, because that fucker winds up everywhere. In fact, I was only surprised watching Glastonbury the other day that he wasn't in every set that was there, because he was the year before. And then I didn't used to mind Dave Grohl. I thought he was all right until he became a dictator during the pandemic. Started dictating who couldn't come to his gigs depending on their status, which is just fucking draconian in the extreme. So now I don't really have time for him, but he was like dog shit, wasn't he, at the Glastonbury the other year? You know, and semi-decent drummer at the back end of a band's career decides to go it alone. Suddenly he's like dog shit, isn't he? He's everywhere for the last 30 years. Is that talent, or is that jobs for the boys? I don't know. Maybe I'm being bitter. Shall I admit to being bitter there? But again, you know, you attain through, I think, you're either born into the bloodline, you're either born into that level of, I'll call it the postcode. You're either born into the postcode of success where you're allowed in, your name's on the list, or you can get there by becoming compromised, I think is the correct terminology. And by compromised, I mean you might have done something not very clever, and somebody's found out about it, and, you know, yes, you can come and work for us, but you'll do it this way, or we might just tell the world that you did this silly thing. And I'm sure that probably, well, I don't know what the split is. Maybe it's 50% bloodlines and 50% captured, or maybe it's 50% one, 25% other, 25% nepotism. I don't know, but those three things are pretty clear. When you join dots, same faces, same places, same drivel, same repetitiveness, and that goes for music, goes for photography, goes for movies. How many movies have been remade in the last 20 years? Be an interesting stat to find out. Any good statisticians out there? Does anybody know, up until 2000, how many films were remakes? And from 2000 to now, how many films have been remakes? I don't know because I haven't checked, but I'll bet that cup that the amount of remakes in the last 25 years compared to the previous 100 is more. Because when you have bloodlines, when you have nepotism, when you have a very thin pool of talent, the creative prowess within that group is tiny. So they have to do things again because they can't think of new stuff. And a little bit of that, I might actually link to David Icke's theory on reality and how the archons, or the evil spirits of the world, great mimickers, but they can't create from scratch, they can only mimic. So if you think David's ethos is that we live in a simulation, I would agree with that. We are overruled by some very, very nasty entities, I would go with that. Just look at the world, look at it and ask yourself, would I do that? Would we do that? No. And then think about how much stuff, be it creative, be it industrial, be it whatever, is just a repetition of the better stuff that came before. I think there's a case to be made there, quite likely. So, my rant today is just about that, really. About how people like me and people from my postcode and the postcodes around me are highly unlikely to get up to the top postcode simply because of how they look, sound, feel, are. And you can push and push and push, but unless perhaps you allow yourself to get compromised at some stage, you're always going to be stuck in your own postcode. And make of that what you can. Don't ever be embarrassed or ashamed of being in your own postcode. I've made a decent living. I've had a great life. I've had some great ups, some horrible downs in and around my postcode. But I would sooner be from this one than that one. And I would sooner accept people from this one than that one. And to be fair, I've met one or two people from that postcode that were actually alright. Seemed alright, who seemed a bit embarrassed to be in that postcode, who felt a bit like they didn't really want to be in that postcode, but they were kind of had to be because it was expected. So there are a few people like that, but in the main, they're just horrible fuckers who will ghost you, who will belittle you, who will make you feel, well, try and make you feel inadequate. And they did to me for a while, both in my music career and in my photography career. But I got a thick skin and just realised, actually, I don't want to fucking work for you. I was trying to work in my own postcode for a fucking 30th of the money and see a smile on somebody's face when I do it from. So I kind of approached it without ethos. But the frustrating thing for me is, like I said, is our kids and their friends and your kids and your friends and your wants, desires, dreams are going to get battered back to you. Quite possibly because of where you're from, who you are, how you sound, how you look, what your outlook is, what your beliefs are. And if you look up their higher echelons, they all end up with the same belief. They all get funneled down, say the same things, believe the same things. They're all going to come together and stay on side until that one person says, actually, I don't agree. Both done. You're gone. Or that thing we've got on them, put that out in the press. And it's pretty obvious when you wake up and smell the coffee and you see how the world is organised and run, and you see what's what, who's really in charge. All those things are quite easy to see, I think. And I soldier on doing photography. A, because I love it, and B, because I can't stop it because I'm addicted to it. I've said that many times in the old podcast that I'm addicted to taking photos of everything from in the house to the back garden to wherever it is, because I just love taking photos. Although, admittedly, I've not done very much this week because it's been hotter than a Mustang's exhaust on it. But I do it through the love of doing it. In fact, there's a podcast episode on why you're doing it. If you do it for the love of doing it, everything is a bonus. But I did it for the love of doing it with a dream of doing it on the highest plateau. And like I said earlier, but then realised in the journey to get that plateau, the last thing I wanted to be was there with them doing that. Because the truth is, all the good stuff, all the good people, all the creativity, all the wow stuff, all the new stuff, all the stuff that's not a repeat, all the stuff that's not been done before, all the stuff that's not, let's do Little Red Riding Hood again. Let's do, what's the recent one Disney did? Snow White. Let's do that, but let's do it. Where's the new ideas? Where's the creativity? They don't exist because it's such a small pool of bloodlined, nepotized talent that the ideas are stifled. And I'm pretty sure if you look back at the last 25 years, I mean, I know trends and things have always come and gone. 60s was a rehash of something else. But if you look from the 30s up to the 2000s, every decade there's something new coming out, something fresh, something new. Might have been influenced by before, but it was certainly new. If you look from 2000s onwards, it's just meh. It goes from being a kaleidoscope of colour, interest and ideas to a plain brown envelope. And that's everything, from music to film to art, to whatever, wherever the exciting creative wow used to be, it's just the same. It's like stuck in a loop now, last 20, 25 years. Nobody's breaking out of that loop. Oh, look, there's a bit of banana stuck on a wall, it's art. Oh, look, a bloke's spray canned a bit of a picture of working class symbolism on the wall, it's art. You know what I mean? Oh, have you seen that? They're making a new version of that that film. That yeah, it's a new version. What's the latest one? Latest Gun. I used to love Naked Gun with Leslie Nielsen. When was the last Naked Gun with Nielsen? Would have been the 90s. So we're looking at 30 years since that ended. And then here we are again 30 years later, rehashing it. To a woke generation, to a woke crowd that aren't going to get most of that. And Liam Neeson's a great actor. And Pam Anderson, God love us, in it. And she'll bring the crowds. But it's going to be dog shit. You know it is. You know it's going to be trying to be funny. Instead of Leslie Nielsen and that crowd were just funny. I tell a little lie. I did see a trailer for it where it had a picture of Liam Neeson and his dad, Frank Drebin, and then it went round the crowd. Then it got to O.J. Simpson's. It's a bit of a. I thought that was quite fun. But other than that, it's going to be the same, watered down. Yeah. And it was like, when they remade the A-Team, didn't they? When was that? 2010 or whatever. How can you remake the A-Team? They did it with my favourite TV show. You'll see up here, the license plate, best car in the world ever, Dodge Charger. They did it with Dukes of Hazzard, 2005. They did it with, what's his name, out of American Pie, garbage. Daisy Duke, brunette. Daisy Duke, blonde. Come on. And then they did it again with a couple of straight-to-TV movies that just killed it. And it's like, how about this, right? Widen the pool. Instead of going in your backyard in Hollywood, swim in your pool, go to Cleethorpes. Go to Skegness. Go to Blackpool. Go to New Brighton. Go down to Brighton. Go to Southend. Get some real talent. Bring them together and write something fucking new. Or take a picture that looks fucking great, that you can see inspiration for the last 100 years in, but it's fresh. How about doing that? Rather than sticking to your bloodline, to your nepotism, to those who you've got captured because they've been naughty. They won't, will they? Because that's how they live. That's how it goes. Jobs for the boys and girls, jobs for the family, jobs for those in that postcode because they've slipped in there, because somebody's got something on them. That's never going to change. It won't change. All we can do is at our level do the best we can do and be the best we can do and put out the best stuff we can. And if we keep doing that, we'll not go far wrong. We'll have a life, we'll have a career, people will respect us. More than that, though, you'll respect yourself. You'll know you've made that picture out of the goodness of your heart. Your own desires, your own creativity, your own thoughts, your own, your own get up and go, your own love for doing it. And you'll do it well, and you'll be proud of it. I may do a podcast on how we evaluate success at some point. I did write a really big blog on this a few years back, but maybe me, deleted the blog, forgot to save the draft. And it was, a couple of thousand words on how you equate success. Depends on where you're from, what your aspirations are. Most people, particularly in that postcode, equate it to money, don't they? You can't possibly be a successful photographer. You're not earning £100,000 a year. Maybe not, but look how fucking good this is to that. So that's my thoughts for today. I just thought I'd slip that out there. Bloodlines, nepotism, and what have we done wrong to get in this club? Come on. And hopefully some of you can align with that and you can go, actually, Lance, yeah, I've experienced that. That's what I was thinking. Some of you, that idea might be brand new. You might never thought of that before. I'd love to hear your stories. Love to hear whether you've come from a working class background or even a middle class background and managed to make it up that hill and be accepted. I'd love to hear your stories if you have. Pop them below in the comments. Or drop me an email. I'm always up for a good email and a bit of conversation back and forth. You don't have to agree with me. You can shoot me down in flames. I'm not bothered. That's what debate's all about. I love having conversations with people. And I like to converse with people without falling out. We don't slag each other off. We don't call each other names. We just have a conversation. And we can just completely disagree and still be friends. That's what we used to doing it as humans till everybody got too upset about everything. But I'm not one of them. So, thanks for listening. If you stayed with me this long, fucking hell, you're a glutton for punishment, aren't you? If you could do the usual tricks for me, guys, like and subscribe and all that shitty stuff down there helps the channel. You'll notice I've got a lot of clickbait stuff going on at the minute on the channel. That's just to help some growth. I'm trying to grow the channel a bit, so I've gone a bit clickbaity and a bit get some thumbnails just to get the views. Once it's all kind of we've got going and we've got lots of views, I will endeavour to return things to normal. But the advice from the marketing gurus currently is do this, Lance, because you want to grow your channel. So that's what I'm trying to do. So if you could like, subscribe, share, do all that wondrous stuff, thanks a million. Check back soon. I'll probably try and do another podcast for next week, depending on how hot it is, whether I melt, whether I die, or whether the upper echelons come and escort me to some dark space and put me there. I might not be able to. Either way, thanks for listening. Have a great evening, weekend, day, month, year, whatever it is you're doing. Try and enjoy the sun, and I'll catch you all on the flip side. Cheers.
Get you out my mind. Think about a way to get you out my mind. Think about a way to get you out my mind. Think about a way to get you out